The story of America is a tale like no other. It is a saga of ambition, struggle, and triumph. It is a testament to the human spirit's boundless capacity for reinvention. From its humble beginnings as a scattering of colonies clinging to the Atlantic coast, America has grown into a global superpower. Its influence spans continents. Its culture permeates every corner of the globe. How did this improbable journey unfold? How did a nation, born from revolution and forged in the crucible of conflict, rise to such extraordinary heights? The story begins with the arrival of European explorers in the New World. Driven by dreams of gold, glory, and religious freedom, these intrepid adventurers braved treacherous seas and unknown perils. They stepped ashore in a land teeming with life, a land already inhabited by a rich tapestry of Native American cultures. The clash of these two worlds, the old and the new, would shape the destiny of a continent. The colonists established settlements along the eastern seaboard. They carved homesteads out of the wilderness. They established communities governed by laws and customs brought from their homelands. Life in these early colonies was harsh and unforgiving, yet, through sheer determination and resilience, they persevered. They built a new society, a society that valued hard work, self-reliance, and individual liberty. These values would become the bedrock of the American character. However, the seeds of discontent were sown early on. As the colonies prospered, the grip of European control tightened. The colonists chafed under the yoke of taxation without representation. The stage was set for a revolution that would reverberate throughout the world. As the 18th century progressed, tensions between the American colonies and Great Britain reached a boiling point. The colonists, accustomed to a measure of self-governance, bristled under increasingly restrictive British policies. The cry of "no taxation without representation" echoed from the bustling wharves of Boston to the sprawling plantations of Virginia. A new generation of colonial leaders emerged. These were men of intellect and passion, men like John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, and George Washington. They believed in the inherent rights of man, in the right of the governed to determine their own destiny. Events moved swiftly towards confrontation. The Boston Massacre, a bloody clash between British troops and colonial protesters, inflamed public opinion. The Boston Tea Party, a daring act of defiance against British tea taxes, further fueled the flames of rebellion. By 1775, the colonies were on the brink of war. Militiamen, calling themselves the Minutemen, began to train openly. The British, determined to assert their authority, dispatched troops to quell the unrest. The first shots of the American Revolution were fired at Lexington and Concord, Massachusetts on April 19, 1775. The battles of Lexington and Concord ignited a firestorm that swept across the colonies. Ordinary farmers and shopkeepers took up arms against the mightiest military force on earth. They were poorly equipped and outmatched, but they were fighting for a cause greater than themselves, the cause of liberty. In June 1776, a delegation of colonial representatives gathered in Philadelphia. They were tasked with a momentous decision, whether to declare independence from Great Britain. The debate was fierce and impassioned. At stake was not only the fate of the colonies, but also the future of democracy itself. On July 4, 1776, the Continental Congress adopted the Declaration of Independence. This document, penned primarily by Thomas Jefferson, proclaimed the birth of a new nation founded on the principle that all men are created equal and endowed with certain unalienable rights, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The Declaration of Independence was a beacon of hope to the oppressed and a clarion call for freedom that would echo through the ages. The war for independence raged on for another 6 grueling years. The Continental Army, led by General George Washington, faced incredible hardships, shortages of food and supplies, bitter winters, and crushing defeats. Yet, through unwavering determination and the support of foreign allies, they persevered. Finally, in 1783, the Treaty of Paris was signed, officially recognizing American independence. In the decades following independence, the United States embarked on an unprecedented period of westward expansion. Driven by a belief in their manifest destiny to control the continent, Americans pushed westward, their wagon trains snaking across the vast prairies and towering mountains. This westward expansion came at a terrible cost. Native American tribes, their lands coveted by settlers and the government, were forcibly removed from their ancestral homelands. The Trail of Tears, the forced relocation of the Cherokee Nation from Georgia to Oklahoma, stands as a stark reminder of the tragic consequences of this expansion. The expansion of the United States also led to conflict with other nations. The War of 1812, fought against Great Britain over maritime rights and westward expansion, solidified American independence. The Mexican-American War, sparked by disputes over the Texas border, resulted in the United States acquiring vast territories in the Southwest. Through war and westward expansion, the United States grew into a continental power. But internal divisions simmering beneath the surface for decades threatened to tear the nation apart. The issue of slavery, a moral stain on the nation's conscience since its founding, would soon erupt into a bloody civil war. Section 5. A House Divided. By the mid-19th century, the issue of slavery had become a festering wound on the American soul. The North, increasingly industrialized and morally opposed to slavery, clashed with the South, whose economy relied heavily on enslaved labor. Abolitionists, their voices growing louder and more insistent, condemned slavery as a moral abomination. Harriet Tubman, Frederick Douglass, and Sojourner Truth emerged as powerful voices for freedom, their words and actions inspiring millions. The election of Abraham Lincoln, a staunch opponent of slavery, in 1860 proved to be the breaking point. 11 southern states seceded from the Union, forming the Confederate States of America. The Civil War, the bloodiest conflict in American history, had begun. The Civil War was a brutal test of national will. Brother fought against brother, father against son. Battlefields such as Antietam, Gettysburg, and Vicksburg became synonymous with unimaginable carnage. Yet through it all, Abraham Lincoln held firm to his belief that a house divided against itself cannot stand. Section 6. Rebuilding a Nation. After 4 long years of bloodshed, the Confederacy surrendered in 1865. The Union was preserved and slavery was abolished. The nation, wounded but not broken, faced the daunting task of rebuilding. Reconstruction, the period following the Civil War, was a time of both hope and turmoil. The newly freed slaves faced the challenges of building new lives for themselves and their families. The South, devastated by war, struggled to rebuild its economy and its social fabric. While Reconstruction brought about significant progress in civil rights, it also faced fierce resistance. The Ku Klux Klan, a white supremacist terrorist organization, emerged in the South, terrorizing black communities and undermining Reconstruction efforts. Despite these obstacles, African Americans persevered, establishing schools, businesses, and political organizations. The legacy of slavery and Reconstruction would continue to cast a long shadow on American society for generations to come. The fight for equality and justice, ignited by the Civil War, would continue to be waged in courtrooms, legislatures, and the streets for the next century. Section 7. America on the world stage. As the 19th century drew to a close, the United States emerged as a global power. The Industrial Revolution transformed the nation into an economic powerhouse. Railroads spanned the continent, connecting the Atlantic and Pacific coasts. Cities boomed as factories churned out a dizzying array of goods. The Spanish-American War, fought in 1898, marked a turning point in American foreign policy. The United States, victorious in its war against Spain, acquired territories in the Caribbean and the Pacific, including Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Philippines. The dawn of the 20th century also witnessed a wave of social and political reform known as the Progressive Era. Muckrakers exposed corruption in government and industry. Reformers fought for women's suffrage, labor rights, and child labor laws. The United States, once a fledgling nation seeking its place in the world, now stood poised to shape the destiny of nations. Section 8. The Fires of the 20th Century. The 20th century would prove to be a time of unprecedented challenges and triumphs for the United States. The century began with the horrors of World War I, a global conflict that drew the nation into the vortex of European power struggles. The Roaring Twenties, a decade of economic prosperity and cultural dynamism, gave way to the despair of the Great Depression, a period of widespread unemployment and economic hardship. World War II, the deadliest conflict in human history, once again tested the resolve of the United States. The nation, united against the threat of fascism, emerged from the war as a global superpower, its military and economic might unmatched. The post-war era brought new challenges. The Cold War, a decades-long ideological struggle between the United States and the Soviet Union, cast a long shadow over global affairs. The threat of nuclear annihilation loomed large, shaping the political and cultural landscape of the era. Section 9, A New Millennium. The latter half of the 20th century witnessed a profound social and cultural transformation in the United States. The civil rights movement, led by visionary leaders like Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and Rosa Parks, challenged the nation to live up to its ideals of equality and justice for all. The Vietnam War, a divisive conflict that tore at the fabric of American society, sparked widespread protests and forced a reassessment of American foreign policy. The dawn of the 21st century brought new challenges and opportunities. The terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001, shook the nation to its core, ushering in an era of heightened security and global instability. Technological advancements, from the internet to smartphones, revolutionized the way Americans lived, worked, and interacted with the world. As the United States entered the third decade of the 21st century, it faced a complex array of challenges: climate change, economic inequality, political polarization, and racial injustice. The COVID-19 pandemic, a global health crisis of unprecedented scale, tested the nation's resilience and exposed deep societal fissures. Section 10, An Enduring Legacy. The story of America is a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit, the spirit of innovation, the spirit of resilience, and the spirit of hope. From its humble beginnings as a scattering of colonies clinging to the Atlantic coast, the United States has grown into a global superpower, its influence spanning continents, its culture permeating every corner of the globe. The American journey has been marked by both triumph and tragedy, by moments of unity and periods of profound division. It is a story of constant evolution, of a nation striving to live up to its founding ideals of liberty, equality, and justice for all. The story of America is still being written. Its future remains to be shaped by the actions and decisions of each new generation. As we look back on the epic journey that has brought us to this moment in time, let us draw inspiration from the courage, compassion, and creativity of those who came before us. Let us strive to build a more perfect union, a nation where all citizens have the opportunity to achieve their dreams and contribute to the ongoing narrative of the American experience.